Great to see some familiar faces as well as some new ones that I haven't to connect with over the years yet. Today's session will cover tour promotion, as Helene said. This is for publishers at any stage in the process. So if you're just starting out or if you've published your 10th tour, it doesn't matter what your audience size is, we'll help you get the tools to reach all of them. We'll be covering finding your audience, building a content pipeline, creating content that converts, VoiceMap's distribution features, and what's coming soon to VoiceMap as well. We won't be able to cover everything. We're going to mostly focus on digital marketing. But if you do have questions on things that aren't covered, please go to the forum after the webinar and leave questions there and start a thread with the community. You could also use the Facebook or LinkedIn group. One idea I'd like you to hold throughout the webinar is that this isn't a to-do list with 20 steps to success. It's a menu. You need to choose what will work best for you and what fits your brand and yourself best. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of promoting, I want to talk about what VoiceMap's already doing, as well as the takeoff effect. In Gary's webinar in April on preparing your tours for the summer season, he spoke about this a bit. Essentially, we looked at almost 250 tours that were published in 2023 over a 2-year period. We noticed that tours that earned $50 in their first 90 days tend to perform 9 times more. Now, what we do to help you get there is we focus on organic search and platform discovery. By that, I mean making sure your tour, your publisher profile, and the destination landing pages, Berlin, Paris, New York, are all optimized for SEO, which is search engine optimization. That's if someone Googles what to do in a self-guided tour in Berlin, for example, your tour will show up there. AEO, answer engine optimization. This is if someone goes to Gemini or ChatGPT and again puts in a question, what to do in Paris that's budget friendly when you're short on time, we should come up as one of the answers. And then GEO, which is generative engine optimization. That's those AI snippets you see above Google search results. It's generally a summary of quite a few different sources, and we try and make sure VoiceMap is one of those sources. We also partner with a variety of online travel agencies like Musement, Viator, Project Expedition, as well as other partnerships. And we try and make sure that wherever your tour is reaching a really wide range of people and that the reviews that it receives are really good ones that help build trust for the brand, but also for your tour and make more people want to take it. We then also do our own digital marketing. That includes ads, social media ads, as well as organic posts that you've probably seen on if you follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, we post quite regularly. Now, we can't do it alone. We see the best success when you guys help us with the marketing efforts and do your own marketing alongside what VoiceMap is already doing. This creates a really great runway that builds to success. For that, you need to use your own existing audience. They're primed for that initial push, which helps you to succeed. So how do you go about identifying your audience? What we've seen is that most people aren't aware of just how large their audience is. The most common audience that people talk about is social media. That's Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, any of the sort of main social media platforms where you have followers. That's really common and quite easy to understand. But you've also got followers and an audience in the form of subscribers to your podcast, your newsletters, your blogs. A wider audience that you might not be aware of are from niche communities, Facebook groups where you interact regularly with like-minded people who share an interest in a particular subject, online forums, or even Reddit communities. And lastly, your professional network. That can be LinkedIn, but it can also be seminars that you attend regularly and talk to the same people again and again because you see them there quite often. It can be your colleagues as well. Anyone that is interested in in the topics you cover in your tour, those are the people you want to reach. And generally, you're already reaching them in one way or another. You just don't realize it. Here are two examples from publishers, from your fellow VoiceMap publishers. First, Willem From. He's the historian and creator of the History of Cologne podcast. It's been running since 2019 and has a dedicated international audience. His VoiceMap tours weren't starting from zero when he published. He already had an audience primed for the Cologne's history, and so it made success easier. Both his English tours now have 200 reviews with an average of 4.5. Katrina Milne is a similar story. She's a qualified Scottish tour guide and with an international travel blog. She started her own company, Travel Cat Tours, in 2018, leading over 3,000 people since then. And through her website and her social media presence, she had an audience that was ready to take her tours when she first published. She now has 3 tours in English, almost 500 ratings, with an average of 4.5. Neither of them were starting from zero. They met their audience where they already were. Those people are their first buyers, and the first initial reviews and ratings are received mostly from them. Now, let's talk about managing a content pipeline and what that is. A content pipeline is a structured process of planning, creating, scheduling, and distributing content that make it easier to manage. One of the most common mistakes that people generally make is starting from scratch. If you don't have a Facebook page dedicated to your tour business, don't start one unless you really want to. It's going to be a battle to gain traction. It's not a worthless endeavor, but it definitely is a battle and an uphill battle. So I would recommend starting and focusing your energy on where you already are before moving to new platforms. One of the things that will make it easier is to think in themes and not in individual posts. By doing that, you're not reinventing the wheel every time, but you've already got a starting point when you start creating your different posts. Irene does this really well. She's a VoiceMap publisher in New York under the banner City Beautiful. I've included some of her examples from Instagram over here on the right side of the screen. She's got themes like general history or more specific history, as well as hidden details that often get overlooked, like New York's tallest forgotten buildings. She's also got how-to guides, so how audio tours work and what it means to take an audio tour, what the experience is like. This is content that you can easily create themes around and then build several different pieces of content from those themes. If you're struggling to work out what themes fit your tours, look at the categories you've chosen for your tours. Those are your first themes. Your tour could have the categories food, neighborhood, hidden history, or even architecture. Those are some really strong themes, and those are your starting points. Next, I would recommend repurposing reliably. If you have a blog, use that content for your social media. A podcast episode can easily be transferred and transformed into a nice little reel that you share online. You don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. Take the content you already have and look at how you can use it in different ways. I would also recommend batching your content. Set aside a few hours once a week or fortnightly to create the content. This will make it much more manageable and mean that you're not doing it piecemeal, which makes it easier to push aside for other things when new priorities come up. It also helps you to be able to schedule your content ahead of time. And to do that, you can use a simple calendar. You don't need to stick to your calendar rigidly, but use it as a guideline. And if you schedule something for the 4th of July and then decide it's not the right time for that piece of content, you can always reschedule it. You don't have to stick to it. There are a lot of different tools out there to help you schedule and build a calendar. You can use a spreadsheet, a physical calendar, or one of the online tools or apps out there. I'm not going to make specific recommendations because there's so many and different ones suit different needs. But if you're using one and you really love it, please share it in the chat or start a new forum thread and let people know why you like that one in particular. Lastly, consistency is key. You don't need to post every single day. If what's manageable for you is posting 3 times a week, then that's great. If it's only once a week, that's fine too. A lot of the platforms reward consistency over having 2 weeks where you're posting daily and then you go silent for a month or two. So try and find a schedule that works for you and stick with it. Now let's look at content that converts. A lot of the time, the question that gets asked is how to promote without feeling like you're constantly selling. I think the answer is to lead with curiosity. What is your audience interested in? And if you're not sure, try and give them something to be interested in. If you lead with that curiosity, I think that's half the battle, and your tour will become the natural next step for those wanting to know more. Lean into your expertise. What do you know about your city? The food there, the architecture that people always miss, or the myths and legends that the guidebooks get wrong. Lean into that and create content around it. Give your audience something to connect to. And by that, I mean a story or an emotion. The way you frame something is really important. So if you think about this phrase, the last public execution by guillotine in Aix-en-Provence was in 1935. It's an interesting fact, but it's quite boring the way it's presented. If you swap it around and change it to, there are people alive who still remember the last time the guillotine was used in Aix-en-Provence. It was a public execution in 1935. People are more likely to connect to that because they can put themselves in the shoes of the people who were there and can try and imagine what that was like, seeing that last execution by guillotine. It makes it easier to connect to. And lastly, your audience is following you for a reason. You're not interrupting their day. You're not disturbing them by sharing content. You're giving them exactly what they want. Now, let's look at a few examples. I'm only going to share a few, but we'll go through more of them in the blog post after the webinar. So we'll start with carousels. Those are a series of images, usually with a common thread and a clear concept from start to finish. Here is an example from one of our affiliates. She uses it to showcase, uses the carousel to showcase how to turn an audio tour into a full day of exploration. Carousels are great for sharing surprising facts and did you know style posts. You can use, I would recommend using not too much text and really strong imagery. You'll see that she's done this throughout where the text is to a minimum. It's clear, it's easy to read, and the images are generally quite interesting and grabbing. She also makes sure to tag VoiceMap and has, while she does have quite a long caption, which can work for Instagram, she only uses a few key hashtags. Generally, you want to aim for 3 to 5. We'll go into this again a bit later on, but you want some high-level hashtags that have a lot of competition. So if you go to search and put in hashtag visit Portugal, you'll see that it has a number next to it, and that usually is how many people are using that hashtag. So that's a high volume hashtag. You also have more niche ones like travel and learn will not have as many people using it. Try and have a combination of the two where it's more niche as well as high level. Next, we will look at long form videos. They can be medium to long, so 3 minutes up to an hour. Usually for a long form video, you would put it on YouTube, and they're great for sharing interesting stories about your tour, behind the scenes content, like why you decided to create a tour, or even tour trailers, a bit like this one from one of our publishers. You want to make sure that the captions are clear. I'm not going to play the audio, but we can look at the first few seconds. The captions are really clear and relate to the audio being played on screen. We will next look at short form videos. Again, this one is from a VoiceMap user that I'm going to share in a moment. Generally, these videos are 15 to 30 seconds long. They can be quick roundups, sneak peeks at your tour. They can be your tour highlights or how-to guides, for example, how to turn tour into a full day activity or how audio tours work. This one that we're going to look at is from a user, as I said. They included VoiceMap in a listicle of 3 ways to explore Athens. And their caption is quite clever because they say number 3 is the best and that people should save this for their visit. Saying number 3 is the best means that more people are going to watch to the end in order to find out what number 3 is. So you really want to use your caption to the best of your advantage. For them, number 3 was a VoiceMap tour. So we're quite happy about that. Lastly, static posts. They're not as popular on Instagram and TikTok. I would recommend carousels or reels for those sort of platforms, but they can work really well and be used for announcements, new tour, and for example, announcing a new tour or milestones, but also for reviews and what's coming soon. This publisher used it to share a review. They have the entire review as well as 5 stars, a great image, clear, easy to read on-screen text, and they've included a link to their tour. A little later on in this webinar, I'll show you how to create a short link, which you can share, and it'll be something easier for users to remember. Okay. Now we will look at VoiceMap's distribution tab, and this is actually where I will show you how to create a short link. So you've probably all seen this. If you've published your first tour, it becomes accessible at that stage, and you'll find the distribution tab at the end and short links here, not quite in the middle, but quite close. Essentially, a short link will take your long link and turn it into something that's quite short and easy to share. You can share them by putting them into your social media bios, your email signature, in a caption, or even in a message to a friend. They're easy to remember, and it's a great way to get your tour to more people. We then also have QR codes. It's the one right next door to short links. If your tour's not free, then you'll only be able to create a QR code leading to your tour, to your publisher profile, or to one of the few locations that users can preview before purchasing your tour. To remind you, that's the first 3 locations as well as your featured location. So you really want to make sure that your featured location is one that stands out. Maybe it has the best sound design or the most gripping story. With the QR code, you can add them to a poster, to a flyer. You can put them in a sticker in a shop window close to your tour starting point. It's a great way to catch people on the ground. Now that we've covered the distribution tools available on VoiceMap, let's talk a bit about the best practices. A lot of them do overlap. Instagram, for example, they tend to recommend that you post reels consistently. This is something that TikTok also tends to lean towards. While reels are maybe the most popular format on Instagram, carousels are really making a comeback. You'll see this quite often on social media, where one form of content will come into popularity, fade away, and then come back over time. Carousels are currently coming back into fashion and are performing much better than a single static image. Try and always include your short link in your bio. It means that in a reel or at the end of an image carousel, or even in your caption, you can point back to your bio and say that there's a link to your tour there. Make your caption stand out. Try and lead with curiosity, interest, and not be too general. The more general you become, the less likely people are going to stick around to read the caption. They might just scroll away quite quickly. With TikTok, but also with Facebook and YouTube Shorts, always try and hook people within the first few seconds of sharing a video. By that I mean make sure the first few seconds are really stand out and make someone want to keep watching. Think, is this the most interesting part of the video? If it isn't, how can you reframe it so that it works a bit better? Use on-screen text to reinforce the audio or to complement what is being shown on the screen. Post at a consistent cadence and use 3 to 5 relevant hashtags. I spoke about the hashtags a little earlier. You really want to make sure you have a mix of high level as well as more niche hashtags, and this is for Instagram as well as TikTok. Don't use too many. They tend to now lean away from that. but algorithms do change, so it might come back into fashion to use a few more. If you're unsure of what hashtags to use, just think about the main themes covered in your video or in your post and start there. Your destination, what you're advertising, so an audio tour, and then the other three can be those major themes. When it comes to Facebook, if you're in a Facebook group, I really recommend reading the group rules. They're usually quite strict about self-promotion, but if you lead with genuine value, and by that I mean answering questions, even if they don't mean you're promoting your tour, you're more likely to get away with occasionally mentioning your tour. A lot of groups have dedicated days where they allow self-promotion in a particular thread, so keep an eye out for those as well. If you're uploading videos, don't share a link from YouTube, rather upload it to Facebook directly. They tend to reward that a bit more. If you're sharing content in a profile or in a page like for your travel page or one that you have for your audio tour specifically, reshare it on your personal profile too. You'll reach more people, and that cross promotion is generally rewarded. Try and engage with people promptly. If they're leaving comments on what you're posting, Facebook values that quite highly. On YouTube, try and make your title and the thumbnails, the picture that shows up when you're scrolling through YouTube videos, stand out. They're really important. They're the first thing people see, and they'll decide to click through to your video generally just based on that. For longer videos, try and add chapters. It makes it easier for people to find exactly what part is relevant to them if they're not wanting to watch the entire video. I'm not going to talk through how to add chapters. There are a lot of online guides to doing that, both in video format as well as written format. Try and end every video with a clear call to action. That can be to download your tour, to check out your website, to just download VoiceMap. Anything like that will really help. And try and optimize your description with a few keywords, like your tour's destination, audio tour, anything that is relevant to your tour. Think about the keywords that will help people find and understand what your video is about. Now, because the algorithms change so often, it can be really hard to keep up with what's currently in fashion and what's currently working. Here are a few accounts that you can share, that you can follow, that will help you keep up to date. We will share them in the blog as well, so don't worry about trying to remember them. On Instagram, Adam Mosseri is the head of Instagram, and he regularly does Q&As as well as posts updates on what's happening on Instagram. But you can also follow their creator account. TikTok also have a creator account, as does YouTube. With YouTube, you can also follow Renee Ritchie, YouTube's official creator liaison. If following people on social media isn't really your style in terms of getting news, you can subscribe to a couple of newsletters. There's Greek Out newsletter by Matt Navarra. It's a free weekly newsletter, and it covers all the platforms. CYMI by Leah Haberman is a slightly deeper analysis. It's quite creative focused, but also covers all the major platforms. And then in terms of following a podcast, you can follow Social Media Marketing Podcast by Michael Stelzner for a weekly podcast that is about all platforms and often includes interviews with key people within the industry. Now, if you're not already, please make sure to follow VoiceMap on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can follow us using @myvoicemap, and on YouTube, it's VoiceMap. If you tag us, we're more likely to share your content to our community in one way or another, or just to support us. We're not able to share everything because there's so many publishers and you all do such a great job, but where we can, we will give a little support. Now let's talk about what's coming soon. It's really exciting, and we know that everything we've discussed today, the content frameworks, the platform tips, the distribution tools, those are the things already to you, but having them and knowing how to use them are two different things. To help you with that, we're building a publisher toolkit, which will have ready-made designs that you can customize with your tour details and publisher information. These will be templates for social media, but also physical marketing. Many of you have asked for our poster designs or flyer designs, which we have to put together for you manually. This will be a way that you can get to them much quicker. We'll also be launching the Publisher Takeoff program to help you get to that $50 threshold within the first 90 days. This will be structured support. We're still working out what that will look like, but once we have the details finalized, we'll also roll it out to older tours as well. So it won't just be for new tours. Now, you might have noticed throughout this presentation that the logo looks a little different. You might have seen the email from Ian that went out earlier. On Monday, we rebranded. We did this to put you at the focus. Our new tagline is Curiously Human Self-Guided Tours. And this really highlights how at the core of VoiceMap is its community of publishers. It's what sets us apart from all the AI platforms out there. And it does also mean that we have, along with the new logo, we have new design assets which have been added to the documentation. We've had a website redesign, but we've also got new flyers and posters. This is what the new poster looks like. It's very similar to the old design, but we have updated a few things. Concerning the redesign, what this means for you is that we need you to check where you're using the old logo and to please update it. We've also we're using a new font and a slightly different color palette. So please make sure that you're updating it on all fronts. Having consistent brand identity will help people identify who we are more easily. It'll be confusing for users if they go from your website, see the old logo, and then search in the App Store for VoiceMap and it's a different logo. That could mean that they don't download the app because they're not sure it's the same thing. So please make sure you check everywhere where you've used the old logo and update to the new one. But also if you do create a new platform on social media, try not to use VoiceMap in the name of your profile. It can be in the description and you can have a short link without any issues, but using the name can make it really confusing. People can think that it's an official VoiceMap account when it isn't. So in conclusion, before we go on to the Q&A, I'd like to just emphasize that this wasn't a 20 steps to success. It is very much a menu where you need to take what will work for you. You can try out a few things. When it comes to social media, you can try out the same content in different formats. The memory span on social media is quite short. So if you this week post something that hasn't seen as much success as you had hoped, you can take that same content, reformat it, repurpose it. Maybe you had a carousel that hasn't worked and now you want to use it in a reel. You could easily repost it as a reel in a few weeks' time. No one will really know. One thing I'd like you to come away with and to keep in mind is ask yourself, what is the one thing I can do in the next few weeks to build a little more momentum behind my tour? That could be an email to your subscribers, updating your about page on your website to include more information about VoiceMap and what an audio tour means, some of the benefits of an audio tour. It could be a how to do a self-guided tour in a carousel format that you post to Instagram. It could be a QR code in a cafe near your tour starting point. These small steps done consistently help to build momentum and help your tour take off.
Okay, thank you so much, Alicia. That was really, really good. I think super helpful for everyone. There was one question in the chat, but I want to open the floor. If you can just stop presenting so we can see everyone. To open the floor for questions. If you have any questions, please raise your hand, or you can just start asking. There was one question from, and please unmute yourself as well. There was one question from Karen who just wanted to know if we have a time frame for the Publisher Toolkit. She's working on getting something printed, but just wanted to know if she has to wait, if it will be out soon.
So we don't have a time frame as of yet. A lot of our focus in the last few weeks has been towards the rebrand and making sure the website tweaks are smooth and that nothing was broken. So we don't have a time frame, but I'll be pushing for it to happen sooner rather than later, especially with the summer season ahead.
If you're asking, Karen, I don't know if you're still here.
Yes, I am.
Yes. Are you asking about printed materials or you're asking about online? So the printed materials, we have the posters and the flyer that Alicia has shared. So those are available. So if you reach out to us, you can reach out to your editor. Who is your editor?
Gary?
Okay, reach out to Gary and he'll share with you the steps on what we need from you to create a poster or a flyer for you.
Okay, thank you.
So those are ready. You're welcome. Paula, you have a question about carousels?
Yes, I do. I am wondering if you have a VoiceMap, how to do a VoiceMap tour carousel that you could share with us to use ourselves.
We don't have a carousel of our own on how to do a VoiceMap tour, but there are a few out there. Iran in New York is one publisher who's done it, but we've also seen that a few of our affiliates and other VoiceMap publishers have done. And so we will share them as examples in the blog so that everyone has access to them.
Great, thank you.
And then there's a question from Heidi. You're welcome to just unmute yourself.
When thinking, so I think sometimes when I've seen the reels, it sounds like very good quality professional audio, like maybe the publisher is, showing a video guiding through the tour, and they might be either saying some of their actual script, or maybe they're just doing some original, descriptors of giving information. Are we able to use some of the actual script text, either the audio that has been already made that is used in the tour, or if we read some of our scripts, like if we were to show people, kind of like a part of the tour as if they were to experience what that looks like, or should it always just be original audio? Does that make sense?
It does, and that's a really good question. So for the videos that you've seen on VoiceMap that we've published ourselves, generally we do use audio from the tours directly that's been edited by our team, and then we add additional sound design and sound effects to the music that we include in the video. This is something that we probably can't offer to everyone because the audio team is already so busy, but it is something that you can use from your tour. You can take the script and create new audio using the script, or if you ask us nicely, maybe occasionally we'll be able to provide audio, but it's not going to be in volume, or definitely not to everyone. We just don't have the capacity at this stage.
It would make sense if the videos I'm thinking of are from the official VoiceMap Instagram, but I couldn't remember which ones they were. It's like, oh, were maybe individual publishers doing it, and did they somehow have their own audio? Okay, that makes sense. I would imagine usually when people make their own reels, that, whatever environment they have, if they're in their little blanket fort, that they'd be able to. It's good to know then that we are allowed to use some of the actual scripts, because I know that was my second question. So thank you.
Sure. So Ian, you've asked if we have different formats of the new logo available. We do. In the design pack, we have CVG, PNG, as well as JPEG files. If there's one that you want and we don't have that particular file type, just let us know. We can easily add it in. But it does, that design pack that Helene's just shared has a lot of it has the logo in different formats and slightly different styles for the App Store. Just depends, so that you can use it depending which one suits your website or social media more. So we don't have a specific recommendation in terms of publishing as an organization versus an individual. It really depends on you. If you have an organization is a brand, essentially. So if you have an organization with a bit of an audience behind it and brand recognition, that would be a really good move, I think. But if you don't really have an organization, individuals have been publishing tours on VoiceMap without any issues. They are just as successful as the brands. So I think it really depends on you.
I also want to just add on that because I get that question quite often. So if you are working with an organization that already has an existing audience, then that works quite well. If you are starting a new organization, thanks, Becky. We will share all of the information with you later in the week. So thanks for joining. Sorry, Jim, just going back. If you are starting a new company to actually then go and promote your tours, what we often recommend is still bringing in your own voice. So still saying, okay, this is my company, but I'm Jim, this is my story, because in the end of the day, the listeners are, when they're doing the tours, they're listening to you, to your voice. So sort of bringing that balance to make sure that you bring yourself into the story. And you can do that on your publisher profile as well. I have a great example of Mindy and Jerry. They are a couple in the US, and I'll share their profile now. They're a couple in the US and they work together on their tours. So they actually have Tour Freely as the brand, but in their profile, they also share about themselves and who they are. So that works quite well. If there aren't any other questions, I quickly want to share a couple of things. You're welcome. As well, with the brand relaunch, we've had questions on how our publishers can support us. And I will share some information with you on that tomorrow. But just for today, in the chat, I'm sharing our Instagram post as well as our Facebook reel. So I would love to ask you to go and to like, to share, to comment on those. Tomorrow, I'll also share with you, we have a blog post as well as a couple of other suggestions on how you can support the new brand relaunch. Alicia, do you want to take Joe's question?
Sure. So we will provide more information on exactly how user profiles will be used in the near future, but we are trying to make it feel like more of a community. And so we'll be adding badges to users' profiles, for example, for how many kilometers they've covered doing VoiceMap tours, how many tours they've done, how many publishers they follow, and how many reviews they've left. So we'll have badges and try and make it just a little bit more fun and more of a community experience for users. Are there any other questions? Hopefully you've all been able to learn something new from this webinar.
If there aren't any other questions about the webinar specifically, anything about the new brand, the relaunch, any of the new tours that you have questions about? If there is nothing else, I'd like to thank everyone so much for joining us today. Thank you, Paula. Yes, oh, that's Karen. Thank you. She says she loves the new logo. I'm very happy to hear that. I think there's been a lot of work that went into the redesign, not just of the logo, but of the website and the app as well. And the whole idea of going forward with this idea of curiously human self-guided tours. So I've also received quite a few emails from publishers and Ian as well, saying how much you love the logo. So we're happy to see that. Going back to today, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I'll share the recording of the session as well as the highlights and insights, as well as all of the links on our blog in the coming days. And then also, if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to myself or to Alicia or to anyone on the editing team, and we're always happy to address those. And then thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you so much to Alicia.
Thanks, Celine. Just additionally, if you do have examples that you can share with other publishers of what's worked for you, I think they'd love to see it. Share it on the forum, as well as the Facebook and LinkedIn groups. It's really great to see when some of you do that quite often, others not as much, and it's always really nice to see you engaging with each other and sharing what you've learned over the years.